What is a survival skill that is completely wrong and could get you killed? The YouTube videos on how to unarm an attacker from close range. You'll die before you can yell yeehaw! Yeah, if you have not trained extensively in real self-defense, you should never try to fight an armed opponent. Just give them what they want and run. Those videos usually have the person letting the moves be put on them very easily, when in reality, a lot of those moves need to be executed at extremely fast speeds with practiced precision. Otherwise, you will just end up in a wrestling match against someone with a knife, which usually won't end well. Hey, alternatively, instead of learning self-defense, why not take up a wrestling class and throw a knife into the mix? It's actually surprisingly fun. Try it out. Way back in the day, I was into martial arts. We had the actual grandmaster of our style visit our school for about a week. Some political stuff was going down, but hey, we got to train with him some. During self-defense training, all of his tactics were basically which way to run or one move to disengage and run. Finally, someone cracked and asked him, respectfully, what's going on? He said, "You are a martial artist. You train very hard. You can run very fast for a very long time." He then paused for a moment. "You can also just run until they stop chasing you. They are now winded and won't be able to defend themselves very well at all." I actually found this video online of some dude trying to harass a victim, but every single time the harasser tried to move towards the victim just turned around. Every time the harasser looked the other way, the victim started sneaking up on him. And this continued for like 5 minutes until finally the victim got right behind him and like clocked him right in the back of the head. There's a video of a soldier showing how to win a knife fight. The countdown starts and as soon as possible, he just books it. I found the video for you guys, and that deserves a like, don't you think?
I'm just gonna go full speed on this. So pay attention and hope you learn something. Good.
I used to run cash parking lots for events. Attendants regularly would have to handle thousands of dollars in cash, sometimes alone or nearly so. I instituted what we call the $200 rule. No attendant should have more than $200 in their hand at any time, ever. Cash over $200 went into a pocket until I could pick it up. The plan was, if they were ever mugged, had a knife or gun put in their face, etc., they were to instantly take out that $200 and throw it at the mugger, then run like hell towards the nearest well-lit populated area. The mugger would, of course, be too busy picking up the $200 to injure the attendant and or get the big stash of money in the attendant's pocket. It happened twice. Both times, the attendant got away with no problems and we sacrificed $200 or less for his or her safety. Money well spent. Hey, that's like what sea cucumbers do if they're being chased. They have a second set of lungs that they can just poop out. The predator eats the tasty poop lungs, allowing the cucumber to get away. The spare lungs grow back in a week or two. Huh, it's true what they say. Sea cucumbers really do live different lives to us. The first mistake is to look for food and water before having a shelter up to keep yourself dry and warm. Edit. When I say shelter first, it includes having a fire too, which I forgot to mention. When you are wet and exposed to the elements, your core body temperature can drop and you can get hypothermia if it gets too cold, and you would burn more calories than necessary. A big reason to build a shelter too is to keep yourself off the ground, because the ground is an infinite heat sink, which means you lose your body heat way faster than you would normally think, and will be more exposed to the cold/elements. Guys, yes, it's good to be near a water source, but remember that it's always colder around rivers/streams/lakes/oceans. Make sure you are able to easily gather shelter/fire material within the area. Plus, finding a prime location to set up shelter. I feel like a book right now, thanks for the silver. Okay, this is probably true for real life, but every single time I start a new world in Minecraft, I always seem to die of hunger for whatever reason. Not quite as sexy and interesting as the rest of these, but if you're walking alone at night, putting a key between each finger with a thought that you can punch someone and they'll be impaled by 3 keys is useless. Absolutely right, do not try this. You're much more likely to hurt the webbing on your fingers since the grip you have on each key will be really weak. Instead, put a single key between your thumb and forefinger, parallel to your thumb, and make a fist. This still isn't great defense, but it is an improvement over simply a fist. This is what she means, holding it like this. Whether this is better than a fist or not, that's arguable. Also, don't try to kick a man in the crotch unless you have an amazing shot, in which case you're probably better off running anyway. If you miss or don't kick hard enough, both of which are more likely in a case where you're likely panicking, you're just going to cause mild discomfort and piss him off even more. Ditto on that last one. I practice martial arts and we do quite a lot of sparring. Every now and then you get a stray kick that hits right on the wrong button. But almost every single time that happens, whoever gets hit just gets angry and wants to throw one back even harder. If you ever find yourself in a snake country, make as much noise as possible. Most people that want to avoid snakes will stay quiet, but they are more scared of you than you are of them. Talk loudly, stomp, but obviously keep an eye and ear out for any fellas who don't want you to be there. Source, Australian. Except for the death adder, which will lie there and ignore 19 people stepping over it and then bite the 20th person who has the bad luck to step on it. Easy solution. Just get bit by a death subtractor. A true story. I live here in Australia. I was walking to the train station right outside my house. Right there. I was attacked by a snake in the middle of the night. I didn't know what happened, but I grabbed it and I just yeeted it down that construction yard right over there. Never saw that snake again. Hopefully it didn't hit anyone down there. Rescue breaths are wildly overrated in most movies and TV shows. You'll see someone in cardiac arrest, and the rescuer will stop giving compressions and focus on breathing into a person's mouth, and blammo! Awake, alert, and alive. Nope, don't do that. Your body does store a fairly decent amount of oxygen in its blood at all times. If someone in front of you ODs and their mouth is covered in saliva or vomit, or someone collapses in front of you of the suspected cardiac arrest, your plan of action is twofold. 1. Are they breathing and do they have a pulse? This is easy to mess up, especially in the moment of panic. My rule as an emergency service provider is that if you don't feel it in 10 seconds, it's not there. Start compressions. If they are not in cardiac arrest, they will let your ass know. And the law covers you under Good Samaritan clauses in most cases. 2. If you are the only person attending to this body, do not stop and give rescue breaths if help is on the way and will be there soon. It takes about 4 to 7 decent compressions to get blood recirculating in the body after stopping to give mouth to mouth. That's a lot of blood carrying a lot of vital oxygen reserves that aren't making it to the brain. Obviously, if you're a long way out from help and you feel safe to do so, give rescue breaths. But it should never be priority number 1. By the way, if you hear ribs crack, make a face, make vomit noises if you have to, tell the person their bones are grossing you out, but don't stop compressions. Because what are compressions? That's right, they are number 1. You know, I think that if you break someone's ribs and you continue pressing it into them, you'd probably puncture a lung. But then again, you'd probably be better off dead than being dead, right? I worked in an emergency response. A patient suddenly went unresponsive after standing up to get onto a cart. We weren't sure if we felt a pulse or not, but our 10 seconds was up, so my coworker started compressions. Or I should say, compression, singular. She delivered a single, high-quality compression, and he immediately screamed and threw his arms and legs up. Turns out his blood pressure dropped when he stood up, causing him to pass out, and was so low that we couldn't even feel a carotid pulse. I told that coworker I want her doing my compressions should I ever need them. The opposite of One Punch Man. One pump woman, able to resuscitate anyone with a single compression. Not to be confused with One Thrust Man, who ejaculates after only one thrust. If a predator attacks you, you have a fairly good chance of scaring it off, especially if it's smaller than you, because it's likely only looking for food. If a herbivore attacks you, you're screwed because it genuinely wants to kill you. If it's a predator, you just need to convince it that you aren't worth the effort, especially if it's not too hungry. If it's a herbivore, that's just gonna make it want to kill you even more. They say that the rabbit runs and fights harder than the fox because the rabbit is fighting for its life while the fox is just fighting for its dinner. Yup. That's an actual thing in behavioral ecology. It's called the life dinner principle. The life dinner principle? Thought you were joking. Today I learned. Don't be fooled, Jimmy. If that cow ever got the chance, he'd eat you and everyone you care about. Let me know in the comments how you would possibly piss off a herbivore. Oh, and a quick reminder to subscribe and hit that bell icon right now if you have not already. Wear a seatbelt. There's myths about it being bad if you go into a lake or if there's a fire, but 1, that is an incredibly tiny proportion of car crashes, and 2, if you're in that situation, you're far more likely to be knocked out and die of inaction if you're not wearing a seatbelt. I know this is a mundane tip, but you're far more likely to be in a life-threatening car crash than be stabbed or be in a falling elevator. Wear a seatbelt. Apparently, passengers can smash into other passengers when they're not wearing seatbelts. There's this hilarious video of these guys sailing on a boat, but at one point they must have caught a good wave or something because everyone gets knocked the hell over, and the driver, who's this bald dude, just kind of like tilts over to the side and just goes completely out cold. If you get stabbed with anything, don't pull it out since it could be the thing preventing you from bleeding out. Instead, immobilize it and go to the hospital where they can stop the bleeding when they remove the object. That knife is in your aorta. If you remove it, you bleed to death. Consider that a professional courtesy. Thanks, John. Really appreciate it. It won't kill you, but don't pee on a jellyfish sting. It will actually release more of the toxin. Pee directly on the jellyfish to show dominance. That's for stinging my wife. Vinegar is really good for those stings. So, vinegar is good, pee is bad? Yeah, it's the same rule for salads, by the way. Yeah, you say that, but then again, some people like using ranch. Follow flying birds to find water. They can simply be flying to spend a night anywhere, so we can't rely on them. Fish are the ones that you should follow to find water, and that's why I carry a goldfish on desert expeditions. Goldfish, the snack that smiles back.
The snack that smiles back. Goldfish.
Punch a shark in the nose. As a diver, there was a joke that we're supposed to use our dive knives for shark attacks. We cut our dive buddy and swim away, hoping the shark would get to them first. Ah, the old, you think you can outrun a cheetah? No, I just need to outrun you. Punching them in the nose is the last resort. It would be more effective to punch them in the eyes or the gills and use what you can to keep distance. How do you punch underwater? I think gouging would be the only way. Source: extensive underwater martial arts move at age 8. I wrote punch as a generalization for any sort of jabbing at those areas. I do agree with you that gouging would be more effective than specifically punching. Has anyone here tried to punch underwater? You cannot punch underwater. I would let Francis Ngannou, the hardest puncher in the entire world, stand in front of me and punch me fair and square underwater and I just take it. That would do nothing to me. Sticking your finger up a dog's bum.
What?
I've read this a few times. Not a good idea. Best way to deal with a dog attack is to try to move away slowly, sideways with your arms at your side so that you're not threatening. Don't look at the eyes and don't smile. Both are seen as a challenge. Don't run away. The dog will instinctively chase you. Get up high if you can. Dogs can't climb very well. If things go down, do the opposite of looking unthreatening. Stand tall with your arms in the air and growl or roar. If there's something nearby, throw it at the dog to make it think twice. Wrap clothing around your arm to hand to the dog should it go for a bite. You're pretty much guaranteed to be bit, so make it in a place that is less important and less likely to bleed out. Don't lose your footing or fall to the ground. You'll be toast. Don't pull away from the dog if it has bitten you. This will cause more damage. Once the dog has bitten you, it probably won't let go. Aim to kill or maim the dog. Fingers in the eyes are good. Jumping on the dog with all your body weight is better. If you break their ribs, they will probably give up. Staying away from aggressive dogs is your best bet. How is this even advice that people take seriously? Ah, I'm being savaged by a Rottweiler. Hang on, let me reach around and fuck! Fingers in the eyes are good. This is true for a lot of animals, including humans. Someone or something dead set on attacking you, jam your thumbs into their eyes. Okay, let me make it clear that if I have you in a chokehold and you start sticking your fingers in my eyes, I'm gonna break your neck. Fingers in eyes probably works on anything that is not trained.
Normally when somebody touches my eye, you think I'm gonna go, oh! No, I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna go, motherfucker. Never fuck with somebody who has a dominant position over you. It's the most idiot thing that people actually believe that if you put a finger in my eye, I'm gonna let go. Yeah, really.
That you can eat what animals eat. Not true. Animals have different digestion systems that aren't the same as humans. I've heard if it's a bird, you shouldn't eat what they eat, but you can eat what bears eat. Still not too helpful unless there's an abundance of bears around you, in which case you have bigger problems. Going to see what the bear's having for breakfast, BRB. Wait, hold on. Don't bears eat humans as well? Ugh. Sucking a snake bite. It will often make it worse. Australian doctor here. There is so much misinformation on here. What you want to do is stop the venom from traveling from the site of the bite to the lymphatic system and then into the bloodstream. Do not suck, cut, wash, or otherwise investigate the wound. Edit. Do not try to catch or kill the snake. Identifying the kind of snake is not worth the risk of a second bite and the delay in getting your other priorities. Priority 1, get away from the snake. Priority 2, get help. Get someone nearby to call an ambulance or, worst case scenario, call yourself. Priority 3, stay still. Moving your muscles is what helps pump the fluid through your lymphatic system and to the lymph nodes, where it can enter the bloodstream quickest. Ideally, keep the bite below your heart, but immobilization is the most important thing. Priority 4, if there is someone with you, get them to apply pressure dressing to tightly compress the whole limb. This can greatly slow down the flow of the lymph and buy you hours. The issue with a tourniquet, as opposed to a full limb compression, is that you're not actually preventing the spread of the lymph up to the limb. Taking the tourniquet off then becomes very risky for a sudden influx of venom into the central circulation and a serious risk of permanent damage and loss of the limb. Australian doctor here. The Australian part is the more pertinent credential. And that's how you know we're dealing with a professional. I don't know if this was standard or just because my school was in a rural-ish grassland, but from grade 6 onwards, we started every year with a mandatory first aid class where we learned about snakes and spider bites as well as broken bones, asthma, etc. I feel like this should be more common in schools. It actually saved a kid's life at ours. Someone passed out on the oval and at first his friends assumed he had a heat stroke or had just locked his knees or something. But while one kid ran to fetch the teacher on yard duty, another kid realized his friend wasn't breathing and started CPR. Turns out, the student had an undiagnosed congenital heart issue, and he'd gone into cardiac arrest or something while playing footy. He was airlifted to the Royal Children's Hospital, so it was a huge deal in our tiny school to have a helicopter land in the football oval. We had an assembly a week later to let us all know that he was okay, but he'd be finishing year 9 through correspondence, so I never saw him again. But the teachers kept emphasizing how the student who fetched help and the one who started CPR saved his life, because without CPR, he would not have survived the 5 minutes it took to find the teacher, let alone the time it took the teacher to assess him, contact the main office, organize an ambulance, realize we needed air service because an ambulance would take too long because our closest hospital was ages away by the road, and then clear the oval of rubbernecking students so they could land. A similar event actually happened when I was in high school. I watched this little kid tumble down a flight of stairs and crack her head open, like it was straight up cracked open. And so while we were outside the school, I picked up a pebble and I threw it at the principal's window to get his attention. He looked out and saw what was happening, so I immediately ran up to grab the school nurse, and we managed to get help to the girl in time. The strangest part about all of that was that nobody else did anything. Bystander apathy at its finest. So you're telling me my dad didn't have to suck on my ass cheek? Last I checked, you live in Kentucky, so he is legally required to do that. Sorry man, call your congressman if you don't like it. If he calls congressman, he'll just have another old dude sucking his ass. Bro, it bit my Luigi. Saved my life. Removing a bullet is more dangerous than leaving it in. Trying to remove it can tear vital organs. It can be pushed in even deeper, or removing it can cause the person to bleed out. Yep, there is pretty much no reason to ever go digging around in a gunshot wound in the field with a pair of pliers, trying to get the bullet out. Your only goal is to control the bleeding and, if possible, prevent infection. And then get to a hospital. Because if you got gut or chest shot, you're going to die in one of many horrible, slow ways if you don't get into surgery. How many of you guys play airsoft? Because I play quite a fair amount and I find that I get shot in the arms, legs, and head a lot more than my body. Is that the same for you guys? So digging it out with a rusty knife and covering it in duct tape doesn't instantly heal you? Far Cry lied to us. Jason Brody never lies. Well, you just have to take a twig from your body and wrap your wrist with a bandage. Expanding on this, knives or sharp objects. If you are ever stabbed, do not remove the knife. Call 911. Wrap a cloth very gently around the entry wound and do not move the knife. There is a significant risk that you will do more damage pulling it out than when it went in. This goes for glass injuries, debris injuries. You wait until you're in an ambulance or an ER and you let the professionals do it. If you try to Rambo it out of you, you're going to open up every blood vessel that knife is blocking, and you're probably going to mess up previously undamaged organs or tissue. Not many people are just gonna leave their knife in you though. Take it out, stab the guy back, and put the knife back in your wound. Kung Fu Hustle. Not quite a survival myth, but interesting nonetheless. Paradoxical undressing. It is when you are hypothermic but still remove your clothes. Explains why dead people are sometimes found naked in snowy ranges. It is usually during the final stages of hypothermia, and the theory is that your blood vessels give up on constricting blood flow to your skin/peripheries, so you suddenly feel super warm and remove all your clothes, which in turn causes you to die quicker. Apparently, slowly freezing to death starts at being cold with rising pain, then going numb, then getting pain bursts and shock from your nerves glitching out, then a period of feeling nothing, then as your body gives up, a second, even worse burst of pain hits all your nerves for a certain amount of time. Then everything ceases and you slowly freeze to death. I actually got chills from reading that. I always felt like freezing to death would be a quick and painless way to die because one would just slowly fall asleep. Guess that was a myth too. Nah man, being frozen cold absolutely sucks. It is definitely not quick or painless. One thing you see a lot in older movies and even today is to conserve your water if you're in a desert or if you lack water. Never do that. If all you do is drink enough to stop being thirsty, the water won't reach the necessary organs and parts of your body. Over time, you'll be underhydrated and can suffer the effects of dehydration without ever feeling thirsty. The best usage of your water is to drink at a set interval, even if you're not thirsty. Also, don't drink large amounts of water all at once. Your body won't be used to it, and more of it is going to be wasted via urination than if you space out reasonably sized swigs throughout the day. In the same vein, If you are ever hiking, working, or going to be outside in hot and dry climates, leave the shorts and tank top at home, and instead go for thin and loose-fitting long-sleeve shirts and loose-fitting pants. The biggest threat to your health is the sun. Avoid direct sun exposure whenever possible. Sunblock is solid enough for shorter trips, but you're going to be sweating off even the best of the stuff, so be sure you constantly reapply when directed to, or if your skin starts to get wet. Loose-fitted clothing also helps slow down how fast your sweat will evaporate into the air. Normally, you want to have sweat evaporate as that's how your body will lose their excess heat, as the sweat will draw heat away from your body to cool you down when wind hits you. But in this case, you're losing sweat too fast for your body to transfer much, if any heat, as the sun is hot enough to evaporate your sweat as soon as you start sweating. Limiting your evaporation also stops you from wasting a ton of water via constantly sweating, which is one of the biggest factors of water loss you should avoid. This guy notes an edit for rewriting the entire thing for clarity, and he still writes it like my dyslexic cousin in grade 7. Think about stereotypical Arabian clothes. They're loose and they cover basically everything except your face. I don't know, but I'm willing to bet that this is why. Yup. And the fabric is lighter and more breathable than it looks. And those same garments that keep you cool during the heat of the day can also keep you warm during those cold desert nights. Oh, you know what? That's actually really good for story writing. There you go, all the story writers on this channel. If you input your PIN number backwards at an ATM, it will withdraw money, but it will be stuck, and the police will be notified in the event of a robbery. It's completely false, and you could get killed or seriously hurt if you play dumb like you don't know your own PIN. This would really suck for someone whose PIN was something like 2552. The sad part about this is that I've seen it somewhere before and people claim that this works. It does not.
Reach me with that hand. Reach me with that hand. You cannot.
If someone's robbing you at an ATM, they probably got captured on camera anyway, so all you gotta do is survive and then call the cops afterward. Trying to outrun a tornado is about the worst possible thing you can do in a tornado situation. Take shelter, get underground, go to an interior room, lay in a ditch while covering your head if you have to. Tornadoes are basically like 3-year-olds throwing temper tantrums, except instead of toys, it's cars, buses, and trains they're throwing around. But also toys too, which they can throw hard enough to literally pass through your body. A vehicle of any kind is about the last place you want to be when a tornado comes through. When you're in this situation, about the worst place you can shelter is an underpass. That's a spot under the bridge for those uninformed. The narrowness of it causes the wind speed to increase. It acts as a funnel. Debris will be traveling much quicker and you're likely to be sucked out. Not off, unfortunately. In 1991, a local news camera crew survived a tornado by sheltering beneath an underpass under El Dorado Lake, Kansas. The footage went viral, as much as anything could go viral in the 90s, and convinced people that underpasses were the best places to take shelter. As it turns out, El Dorado Lake Underpass has some unusual structural features that actually offered a bit of protection, and the news crew were extremely lucky with the angle the tornado hit. To this day, many people will leave their houses and head to the nearest underpass when a tornado warning is issued. A depressing number of these people have been killed. Hey, if you like this video, make sure you let me know in the comments below. Also, why not share this video around with your friends? It really helped the channel and I'd really appreciate it too. Once you're done with that, discover my new Reddit playlist with content from AskReddit to entitled parents. Cheers!